In January 1942, only weeks after the devastating attack on Pearl Harbor, the Japanese Imperial Army captured Manila, the capital of the Philippines. The fall of Manila was not only a military defeat, it was a dramatic moment that revealed the speed and strength of Japan's early war offensive. The city's collapse reshaped the Pacific conflict and marked the beginning of one of the darkest chapters in Philippine history. The story begins in December 1941. As Japanese bombs fell on Pearl Harbor, they also struck the Philippines. American and Filipino forces, commanded by General Douglas MacArthur, were caught off guard by the speed of Japan's advance. Airfields were destroyed, planes were wiped out on the ground, and the defenders were thrown into a chaotic struggle for survival. Manila, the Pearl of the Orient, was a vibrant, bustling city, home to more than 600,000 people. It was famous for its Spanish-era architecture, wide boulevards, and lively markets. But as Japanese forces pushed across Luzon Island, Manila's beauty was overshadowed by fear. By late December, Japanese troops approached from the north, capturing key towns one after another. American and Filipino forces, commanded by General Douglas MacArthur, fought bravely, but they were outnumbered, outgunned, and overwhelmed by superior Japanese air power. Supplies were dwindling, communications were breaking. Every passing day brought Tokyo's forces closer to the capital. On December 24th, General MacArthur made a difficult decision. Manila would be declared an open city. This meant that no defensive battles would take place within its streets. The intention was clear: to spare civilians from destruction. The Philippines had lived through brutal battles before, and MacArthur hoped to prevent another catastrophe. Yet, even as Manila was declared open, chaos unfolded. Civilians fled the city in carts, cars, bicycles, and on foot. Streets clogged with refugees carrying their entire lives on their backs. Rumors spread of Japanese troops committing atrocities in captured towns. Many feared that Manila would suffer the same fate. The Japanese army continued its advance with relentless momentum. Infantry units marched through towns in tight formations, supported by tanks and artillery. Their aircraft dominated the skies, striking key positions with alarming precision. Meanwhile, American and Filipino forces retreated to the Bataan Peninsula and the island fortress of Corregidor, preparing for a last stand. On January 2, 1942, Japanese troops finally entered Manila. What followed was a moment frozen in history: one city falling, another empire rising. Japanese soldiers marched through the streets in formation as their officers raised the rising sun flag over government buildings. Civilian crowds watched in silence, fear or resignation. Some tried to hide, others stared blankly. Manila had fallen without a major battle, yet the shock of occupation was overwhelming. The Japanese command immediately imposed strict controls. Curfews were announced, radio stations were seized, schools, newspapers, and government offices were taken over. Japanese patrols spread through neighborhoods, enforcing order with bayonets and rifles. The once bustling city became eerily quiet. General MacArthur, now stationed in Corregidor, sent a message: "I shall return." These three words would become legendary, but in January 1942, the people of Manila were left on their own, uncertain, afraid, and bracing for what the occupation might bring. While the Japanese celebrated victory, Manila's suffering had only begun. Food grew scarce as supply chains collapsed. Prices soared. Civilians lined up for hours to buy rice or bread. Many families relied on hidden stores or traded valuables for food. Diseases spread. People whispered about the Kempeitai, the feared Japanese military police, known for brutal interrogations. Manila's fall also had enormous strategic consequences. For Japan, the city's capture secured control of a major port and airfields. It allowed them to launch operations deeper into Southeast Asia and strengthened their defensive perimeter across the Pacific. The Philippines, once a symbol of American presence in Asia, was now under Japanese control. For the United States, the fall was a heavy blow. to morale, strategy, and prestige. Many Americans believed the Philippines would withstand the assault. Instead, the rapid collapse demonstrated the scale of Japan's military power. It made clear that the war would be long, costly, and fought across thousands of miles. Yet in the darkest days, hope survived. American and Filipino troops continued fighting fiercely in Bataan and on Corregidor. Civilians formed underground resistance networks, passing information, hiding soldiers, and sabotaging Japanese operations. Radio broadcasts gave coded messages of hope. Families prayed, waited, and survived. Manila, once a symbol of peace and culture, became a symbol of resilience. Looking back, the fall of Manila was not the end. It was the beginning of a long and painful chapter. But it was also the spark that fueled resistance, unity, and the determination that would eventually liberate the Philippines. Manila had fallen, but its spirit had not.